Welcome back to this episode of Harvey County Talk. I am your host, Lance Gormley. Our guest on the program today is Dan Heinze. How you doing today, Dan?
Just great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, believe it or not, since I started doing this and interviewing people, you're somebody that I've really just wanted to interview in general. I always look for outgoing entrepreneurial people in the community. In the past, your company actually was the only one I could figure out to give me Taekwondo insurance for a sitter. I mean, I love you, and I just wanted to have an opportunity to get you out here on the program. So recently, we've made the decision to do a series of those individuals who are presidents or leaders of civic organizations within the community. If anybody listening to the program, they know in the past I did Scott Gibbons from the Freemason Lodge. And you were the president of the Lions Club until what?
Last week.
Last week.
Yeah, last week. Yeah.
So I'm watching and we're scheduling this, and I'm thinking I got the president of the Lions Club coming on, and then I'm like, well, he's not the president 1 week out, So, but anywho, so you guys passed on the torch and everything of that. But the first thing that I want to kind of do just for the audience is, who is Dan Heinze? Could you tell a little bit of who Dan Heinze is?
Well, yeah, that's a great question there. I don't even know who he is most of the time. Yeah, I look in the mirror and I'm like, who is this fella? No, I'm Dan Heinze. I grew up in northwest Kansas. I'm a Kansas boy, but my home's Phillipsburg, Kansas, where I grew up, and had a great childhood. Loved my childhood. Went in the military as a paratrooper in the 82nd Airborne and got out with the 101st, and had that military experience, and then went a short time in college. I still regret not finishing college. Had some college, and then moved to Newton in 1988 to actually get into retail. That was my passion at the time, and did that for several years, about 13 years total. In fact, I think I might have the last men's clothing store in Newton, Kansas,
cool.
Believe it or not, on Main Street.
Awesome.
Yeah. And did the clothing gig, loved it. And but just couldn't get quite ahead financially. And my dad was an insurance agent and in real estate in Phillipsburg, and I thought, well, if he can do it, I can do it.
Right.
So that was my next career path, and I've done that now for 27 years. And I might add, really about me, which a lot of people don't know, I have 10 sisters, no brothers.
Wow.
I have 3 biological sisters, a half sister, and 5 stepsisters. So it adds up. I don't even, my math was right on that, but it adds up. So I was raised with 3 older sisters and stuff. I was the baby of the family and stuff. Just turned 60 last Saturday. So I don't know what it is about me. Every decade I get excited about turning the next, the big leap. So, but that's really me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Well, you've lived in Newton for, you said, long time here.
Yeah, over 30 years.
So when you got out of the military, Newton became home.
Newton really did become home, yes.
And whether you were going to be doing one thing or the other, you were going to invest here in Newton regardless.
That's right. Yeah. And what I really was excited about Newton and what's involved, when I first got here, I can really clearly remember somebody telling me that, you just won't fit in. You're not a Newtonian. You're not a native. And they were so wrong. Newton has given me the opportunity to become the businessman and the man that I wanted to always be. And I think sometimes when you grow up in smaller communities like I did, and it's our own fault, so I'm not pointing the finger, it's my own fault. But, when you're an ornery little stinker, that's kind of the reputation you stick with.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's hard for people to take you seriously and to see you in another light. So you're kind of kept in a box by your own doings. And sometimes just outside pressure keeps you there too, by peer or just community's perception. And Newton has been so opposite of that for me. It has just given me an opportunity really to grow and expand and be who I want to be, in spite of all my flaws. So I'm just so thrilled that I've had a good, healthy career here, and people have embraced me. And Newton is a home to me. Phillipsburg will always be my hometown. And I love Phillipsburg deeply. But I just think the opportunities I've been given here, I probably might not have been able to experience to the level, because, again, that's just little Danny, the ornery kid down the street, Yeah. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah. So that's amazing. Wow. I don't think I've heard anybody that I've interviewed so far give such an account. So you just moved me with that, Dan. I just want to tell you that straight up.
Well, I think redemption's important, grace, forgiveness. And I think sometimes we don't recognize that in one another. And when people are really trying to make an effort to better themselves, we need to quit judging them and maybe just stand beside them and walk along beside them. And so I know where I'm at in my life today. I want to be really intentional about that. And that kind of goes into what we were going to talk about acts of service. Yeah. And that's why I like, giving back to community, being engaged, because you don't know who you're going to impact, whether it's a boy or a girl or a man or a woman or somebody that's just totally different from you in all other areas of their life, and be able to have the ability to connect with them and not judge them and to meet them right where they're at that moment in time in their life. And I think all this life has led me to this place where I'm at physically, emotionally, and in my career and all that. So I just rejoice and I feel blessed because of that.
Yeah, and so I'm going to assume that you were looking for a way to plug in and give back and serve in some regard or form. When you were in the process of doing this, how did you stumble upon the Lions Club, and when did you? Yeah. I mean, how long have you been a Lion?
Well, I've been a Lion on and off. I moved out of town just for a short time and came back. So probably this round, I think if I would have stayed in, I'd be a Lion for over close to 30 years.
Wow.
But I think it's been consistent now. I think I'm around my 15-year mark right now. But what really led me into acts of service, I watched my dad. I witnessed my dad and other men and women in my community that were successful in my eyes as business people. They were always involved, whether it was JC's, whether it was Rotary, whether it was Lions, whether it was just the chamber. There was some activity that they were doing that gave back to community. And so that inspired me. So for me, when I started my early business career, I knew part of my success was going to be who I surrounded myself with and being willing to give back, because I believe if you give, you receive. And that's not the motive, shouldn't be the motive, but it just happens that way. Sometimes when you bless others, you're the ones that end up getting the blessing. Yeah. And so that shouldn't be the motive, like I said, but I just feel just being inspired to see other people do that, I want to do the same thing. And so that, watching my father, who's one of my biggest role models, have success in his career and his willingness to roll up his sleeves and work alongside other people, I want to do the same thing. And a friend of mine named Rick Brenneman introduced me to Lions Club. Didn't have a clue what it was about. And that started a long, long time ago, probably 89 or 90. And that just took me to a path of acts of service through a civic group such as Lions. And that's kind of where I got my start with Lions, was through Rick.
So when it came to and you were getting ready to become a Lion, kind of what did you see the Lions Club as at that point? I mean, there was probably a few things that they did, but over time things changed and stuff. So what was attractive to the Lions Club to you specifically in their mode of service?
Well, probably initially, if it would have been a Kiwanian or a Rotarian or a Mason, it probably wouldn't have mattered what group it would have approached me. I knew I just need to get involved and get engaged. Awesome. And it really, I just was kind of numb at first. I really didn't have a clue what was going on around me. Yeah. There's chain of command, there's district, there's all these things that are happening. The mission was pretty much sight at that time. I recognized that, but I really wasn't all in yet. I was just kind of navigating, wanting to be involved. I was maturing. I was growing as a person. So there was a lot of other things happening in my life. I just knew I needed to be involved with something. Rick approached me, so I jumped into Lions, not for any reason other than I knew I needed to be involved. And as I grew into it, I discovered opportunity and more about what they were doing. But it wasn't really until after I came back to Newton and became a Lion and actually became an officer. Once I became an officer and wasn't really just sitting on the sidelines, that I really grew and to have a better understanding, appreciation of what Lions was all about. Now I'm 100% all in and I drink their Kool-Aid. I really do.
I love that.
Yeah.
You got to drink the Kool-Aid
Yeah.
when it comes down to it. Because ultimately, the Lions Club is about servicing the needs of those around you, right? They pick a thing and then they run with it. And you mentioned the glasses. So is that, kind of expound on that. Lions Club is focused on helping people with sight?
Yeah, great. So really, we started with sight. So back in the early 1900s, a gentleman by the name of Melvin Jones was a Chicago businessman, actually in insurance. And he would get a group of men together. At that time, it was just a men's club. And they would get together, and they would do different things to give back to community and find the needs of the community as well. And so at one of their conventions, it grew. At one of their conventions, they had Helen Keller came to visit and speak. And after that, she knighted them the Knights of the Blind. So that's where the Lions Club really started the emphasis with sight. So we collect eyeglasses all throughout the community. Those glasses are then refurbished by one of the prisons around this area. I think it's El Dorado now. And they get the prescriptions, and then we send those all across the world to people that might be in need of eyeglasses or never had eyeglasses. So that was kind of unique. And then we also were, with some of our money, goes to some pharmaceutical companies that helped develop some medicine, help cure river blindness. There were some indigenous tribes that had river blindness. So it wasn't, so just all areas of sight was kind of where they evolved into. And then probably within the last 15 years ago, we picked up diabetes, which is a leading cause of blindness. And then within the last 2 years, we've added hunger, environment, and pediatric cancer. So those are our 5 really key things that we focus on as Lions: is sight, diabetes, hunger, environment, and pediatric cancer.
And to me, that's interesting how that evolves, because I can see the chain there. You know, you're given the ability for people that can't see to see, and then diabetes, knowing that has a big effect on eyes and people's ability to see. You're trying to go at a root cause, and then even then, well, when that, you're going to the root cause of somebody's health, you start talking about, well, why are somebody diabetic, and then you get into nutrition, and that's I didn't know that about the Lions. Yeah, that's interesting. So I know that one of the things, that's so much more than I ever even knew. Dan, right now I'm just telling you this. But I know that you all do like a food drive once a year or maybe twice a year, is it? For just to be able to have everybody donate food, and then tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we have different things we do out throughout the year that are service projects. And food drives, that fills that hunger piece that we have. I did say hunger, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. So the food drive is for Safe Hope and to help build their pantry. Okay. And we'll be starting in August providing food at the porch for their mission. So we do that a couple times a year. We do it during the big car show. Mm-hmm. A lot of traffic, and it's kind of a fun time and stuff, and that is how we coordinate it with Safe Hope to do that. But that's kind of an ongoing thing. Also, the pantry at USC 373 at the high school, we like to take stuff out there as well, food items as well. So the hunger part, we feel like we are doing really pretty good. The areas we really need to work on probably is the diabetes, pediatric cancer. Those are probably the 2 we struggle with, not knowing what to do. So that's something that we really need to grow in those areas. And what's difficult, though, about any of our civic groups, and I know with Lions, so we have these purposes with the hunger and all these other things, but there are also other needs in our community. It's so hard because there are a lot of great needs that need met and vulnerabilities that we want to help with. However, we are so focused on those 5 areas, we don't mean to ignore those other ones, but we only have so much money. Yeah. And so we typically budget anywhere from $13,000 to $15,000 a year, and that has to last us through the year. And that's why we do our big annual pancake feed. That's what sustains us through the year, is that one event. And so when we are asked to do things outside of those 5 missions, we have a limit to what we can give. And it's not a lot. It's like $1,200. And so we can give 12 people $100, but if it's not within our mission, we have a cap. And we hate to do that, but we have to do that. And we just hope and pray the other groups can fill those voids as well. Rotary, Masons, Kiwanis, and those. And because we all have lanes we need to stay in, but we do have some overlapping. But I just hate that we neglect some of that, but we have to stay true to what our mission is to make it worthwhile for us.
Yeah. Well, and that makes perfect sense. I know from being involved in other civic organizations that they have a mission. That's their main goal. And then from there, you do the best you can. Like you said, I don't know. I guess you've been involved in civic organization longer, and I'm going to throw one on you. Is there any kind of a panel or a board or a group of individuals who are part of these different civic organizations that get together to find out how they can network with one another to fill needs in the community and not step on each other's toes?
Not that I know of. I like stepping on each other's toes because that means we're doubling down.
Right, right.
So
I got
that's
you.
a good thing.
I love it. Okay.
So it is a good thing. I think probably the biggest thing is, and I think we play pretty good in the same sandbox. I think Kiwanis. I think of Dwayne Pauls. I think of you. I think of Greg Henson when I think of Rotary, Chris Conradi. These are people I have connections with. Greg and I talk often. Dwayne and I talk often. So there are opportunities of collaboration. And I think because we can communicate well, there lends itself to opportunity. We have to just be mindful of our budget restraints and things like that. But if it's physical stuff where it's not money, where we can just be actively involved physically, then we can really get involved with more and more of
your
that.
time and labor.
Yeah,
and
time and labor. Yeah,
that's awesome.
So, but I don't know if there's an organized group, but I do think we play pretty good together as a group and could communicate pretty good, and we could probably do better.
Yeah, and once again, that probably speaks to the value that you find in Newton as a community to be able to do that.
Yeah, I think so.
So you were president here this last year. What's the president do?
Who?
Different than everybody else.
That's
When
great.
you get that title,
No.
Big P.
This was my third time being president. I did a back-to-back. Lion Greg Nickel got us through COVID, did a fabulous job. Well, we really were determined to hit the ground running. I was a membership director and have been for about 10 years, and I was committed to have 100 new members. And we're at 82 today. And they just said, Heinze, run with it. So I was the president last year, and I was this year, and I just came off July 1. We go July to July. Okay. And we hit it hard. I didn't hit my goal, but actually I have till the end of the year. So I wanted to do it during my watch, but I want Alec to succeed, and this would be great for him to see good growth as well. So I just went blank. Where was I going with this?
Well, I was just thinking I need to find out how I can interview Alex Vermillion.
Yeah,
that's his name, right? He's the one that passed on torch. But you were talking about membership, and you guys have seen growth. I mean, I'm watching it, right? I'm just I like to see where people are successful, and you all are getting people to sign up to be a Lion to participate, and obviously, just from what you said, you have I would say you should take some credit for that.
Yeah. Well, I recall the original question. The president question was basically president just organizes meetings.
Okay.
He's the leader. He's the face of the club. You set the tempo. I think it's really important that whoever sits in that position has bought into the mission of Lionism and advocates Lionism at every meeting, promotes Lionism, is an encourager, is a collaborator, and I think it's a big responsibility, but it's really fun. It's really fun. Mainly the organizer and just the point person. As far as our membership growth, we really have been intentional about encouraging people to go out in the community and do acts of service. And we're never shy of saying, whether it's Lions, Rotary, or Kiwanis, just get involved with the community. Yeah. Just do something to give back. You're blessed, bless others. Come on, let's do it. We want them to be in Lions, but we're happy if they're doing it elsewhere too, because we all have our purpose. So we're not selfish in that regard. But I would say we have a lot of tenacity as far as we're going after it. We encourage couples to serve together. We encourage veterans. We encourage women. Back in the 70s, we allowed women to be in our organization, which is crazy. 70 is kind of a long time now you think about it. But almost 50% of our club now is female. This is a crazy stat. So now that I'm 60, I was counting the other day, there's only 12 of us over 60 years old in our club. We are a young club, which I'm thrilled, because who's going to carry on the legacy and the Newton Lions Club has, and also carry on Lionism in our city. So we have these young people, hopefully Lion Alex Vermillion, these other young people that will carry on, because I'm not the future, they are. I took my decade, now it's their turn to take the next decade. So looking for people like that, but just be encouragers of acts of service, whether it's Lions or something else. I think what helps us too, we only meet once a month at noon. You got to eat lunch, and it's at noon, so we're not interfering with family time. And young people don't want to be out there in the evenings when they could be with their families, and I get that. So we've tried to be a little more relevant to the needs of the young people today, and I think that's really helped us. One other quick thing. I think young people too today, and I could be totally wrong on this, but my perception is they don't want to just meet to meet. If they're going to meet to meet, they're going to hang out with their buddies at home. But if you give them a project, a purpose, a mission, whether it's the pancake feed or maybe it's the getting a food drive or doing those things, they embrace those things. Things of action, cleaning up Sand Creek, things of action. But just to meet, no. They can stomach one a month. But you add on to that, it's like, okay, you're getting into family time and other things. Yeah. So that's been kind of our strategy, I guess.
That's good. That's a good strategy to have. Yeah, I like that.
It's working so far.
Yeah, no, and it makes sense. I know as in my own personal life, you're speaking to me as well, involved in civics, and most of the time that takes place in, during family time. So it's a sacrifice, more so than maybe if somebody was looking at the opportunity to be a Lion. That might be more their vein. So if I was looking at the potential, there's a few organizations in the community that we talked about here. What if I was looking to be a Lion? What could I expect, in your opinion? Like if I was to show up and say, maybe like what can I get or experience by becoming a Lion?
It would depend on, what would your motive be to want to be a Lion? Your motive. If your motive is for business, is it to connect with other people of like minds? Is it to actually give back? It would just depend on your own personal motive, how and what you'd receive from being a Lion. It's like anything else in life. You only get out of it what you put in it. If you want to be a Lion just to hang out, you're probably going to benefit a little bit, meeting some people and stuff and make some new connections, but you're not going to get the full thrust of what we do as Lions. We would always encourage people, or I do, to get involved, because that's where you grow and learn and buy into what we do. So what you would see would be a fun group. You would see some silliness, some fun, but you'd see the seriousness side of what we're doing to really help people. And our motto is we serve, and we say that repeatedly. We really want people to serve. So you would hear that over and over. So that to me would be an encouraging thing to help you grow as a person. So I would hope you would better yourself as a person by giving back and being involved with a civic group. And so I think that would be the feel good out of it if you were looking for yourself benefiting from it. I think you would grow as a person.
Very good. We're getting to the end of the program, Dan, and as it goes by fast, we need to go longer. So as always, I give who's ever here the microphone to speak directly to the hearts and minds of those listening to the program. What do you got to say, Dan?
Wow. Well, I would just encourage people to always count your blessings, and there's always somebody worse. So anything that you can do as an act of service or an act of kindness to somebody else, you need to do it, because you might be the one chance this person has. So whether it's a civic group or just being a kind person on the street or at the grocery store, just be kind. Just be kind. We can make this a better place, but it takes individuals to do it. And why not with us? Why doesn't it start in Newton, Kansas? And so I guess I would just want to be an encourager. I just feel like I owe back. I need to give back. I've been blessed. I've been given chances over and over and over. So I need to do the same for other people. So that'd really be about it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dan, for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me.
I appreciate
Good
you,
to
and
see you.
I know
Thank
I
you.
will have you on in the future. I know this.
I'd like to. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, folks, and thanks for listening to this episode of Harvey County Talk. I was your host, Lance Gormley, and our guest